Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are really excited to talk about career fairs and talk about some of the myths that maybe you guys have heard about career fairs and how we can kind of bust those myths for you, hopefully. So, my name's Hannah Landers. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Services here in Pamplin, and we have several wonderful panelists with us today to talk a little bit about their perspectives. So, I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself. Jordan, you're first on my screen. Will you go ahead and share a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan, if we haven't met yet. I have been a career advisor here for almost 2 years. And before being here at Virginia Tech, I was a recruiter myself.
Awesome. Ronnie?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Ronnie Bernstein. I am the lead recruiting manager on the university relations at Marriott International. Just a quick thing about me. I started in with Marriott as a summer intern. I interned in our hotels. I then joined Marriott's management development program, which is called the Voyage program, post-graduation, where I was a rooms operations manager in New York City. Worked in some more hotel operations and moved to our recruiting team about 3.5 years ago now. But when we come to campus, we're coming to Business Horizons. We do have hotel and customer service opportunities, but we also are a business at the end of the day. So we have every business function, and even though hospitality seems like it's its own thing, really any major can thrive in hospitality. So I'm excited to talk to you all more.
Awesome. Thank you. And Catherine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Camilleri, and I am the university recruiter for KPMG. We're one of the big four accounting firms, but we do all types of services, business and consulting services for our clients. So just like Ronnie said, we kind of accept a ton of different majors. So really excited to be chatting with y'all today. I started my career with KPMG about 6 years ago, actually as a tax accountant in our international tax group, and did that for several years before switching over to recruiting. So thank you for y'all for having me.
Of course. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. And hopefully we will have Josh with TTI joining us in a little bit. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So just a little bit of run of show. We are going to be running through myths that students have often told us they believe about career fairs. If you all have additional questions, additional perceptions about career fairs that you want us to talk about, please throw those in the chat. We're going to ask that you stay on mute just for flow of conversation, but if you are more than welcome to ask any questions at any point in the chat. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with Catherine for this one. A common myth we hear is that career fairs are only for seniors.
Yes, actually, that is definitely a huge myth because we have so many opportunities, whether it be mentorship programs that you can join as a younger student, or early internship opportunities, leadership conferences. And we also, our firm, we recruit a year and a half in advance. So sometimes if you're a senior, you're a little bit late for a lot of the opportunities that we have. So it's actually really great to hit the ground running even earlier. And even if maybe as a freshman you're turned away from some companies because maybe they don't have opportunities for freshman students, it's a really great way to start building those connections and networking with the different companies so that you become a recognizable face. So when you do qualify for something, I, as a recruiter, can remember you and be like, oh, this would be a great opportunity for this student. I've met them several times and I know they're interested. So definitely big myth that you should only be going to meet the firms, a career fair, Business Horizons as a senior.
Awesome. And Ronnie, I saw you're nodding your head, so I think you probably agree with that. But I'd also love to ask what a freshman or first year student should be focusing on when they have their elevator pitch because they don't have as many collegiate level experiences yet.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great if you don't have work experiences to highlight, to talk about what you're interested in learning more about. You do not, as a freshman, need to know exactly what you want to do. At least in my world, like I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Really, what helps you figure that out is knowing what you like and don't like. So if you come up to me and you're like, oh, I'm a freshman, I'm studying this. your name, all of that. This is my major, and you say, I'm taking this class right now. It's been a few weeks, but I've really liked learning about this, and I think I might want to explore something in this, right? What does that look like at your company? That's a great way to start. And then we'll talk about it, and maybe I talk about it, and you're like, oh, I didn't know it was that. I'm not into it, or yes, I love it, right? So totally okay. Start now, and soon you'll have a lot more to talk about before you know it.
Yeah, 100%. I think we often hear like you have to have this perfect elevator pitch. And if you're a first year student, or even if you're just exploring and you're a sophomore or a junior, you can just ask a question and just that's what recruiters are there for, is to talk to you and to learn more. So that's awesome advice. All right, Jordan, our next one's going to go to you. I often hear this from students. If I don't get an interview right away, it was a waste of my time. What do we think about that one?
Yeah, a lot of students feel like they're going in to get an interview or to walk out with an offer, and that's not what the career fair is, right? Like it is going in, making connections, learning, exploring, getting a feel for the different type of positions that are out there, the different type of companies, exploring the industries. So it's not about walking out with an interview. It's about making that connection, connect with the recruiters, through email, through LinkedIn as well, and building that connection. So when you are ready for those internships or full-time positions, that could lead to an interview. So it's not about the interview. It's all about getting in front of people, having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think similarly, something else I often hear, and Catherine, I'll show this to you one to you. I often hear, I feel like they're dismissing me when they tell me to apply online. What are your thoughts there?
No, I think that is another huge myth for sure, because the only way, at least I think most firms and most companies, to get your foot in the door application wise is to apply online. So definitely not. It's just the one thing that we can kind of put on you to do the research on that end. And I know some firms will take resumes, some firms don't. So I recommend you bring your phone with you to Business Horizons, because a lot of times at tables they'll have like a QR code to scan in so you can get in people's pipelines, or scan in to figure out where the applicant you're going to learn so much about each different company, but to have the application they're ready for you. Sometimes it's easier than you having to like search up on the website and find where that is. So obviously don't be on your phone the whole time at Business Horizons, but use that as a tool to connect with the different companies, because I know we are big into having QR codes. And so yes, sometimes we'll take resumes, but we're not going, that's not your application. You need to then use that to submit online. So don't feel dismissed if we're like, yeah, you should apply. Like I want you to apply. That's exciting that somebody is telling you to apply. So
Okay, awesome. And Ronnie, just because this is such a common question, I'd love your thoughts here as well.
Yeah, definitely the same. This is one of those things that has changed like back in the day before computers. I'm sure you did schedule interviews on the spot, or they would like take your resume and pencil you in. But now, like for a few reasons, for like just logistical things, like we need your application in to know that you've applied, right? And maybe it's one of those things where I don't know, maybe you're telling me you're super into it, but then maybe you're not, or, I can't assume off that interaction. I have to see your full application in. And then the other part that goes with it is with companies, sometimes there are different applications for different things, right? So, like, you need to apply so that you're being considered for the right position. So, that's a good thing. And when we say it, we want that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is so helpful because that was kind of my perception too, is that obviously they want you to move forward. There's some degree of interest there if you're encouraging students to apply online. I think the follow-up question to this is the myth of they won't remember me. And I know that you are meeting a lot of students, so I'm kind of curious, and I'll just go back to you, Ronnie, your thoughts on how a student can make the most out of capitalizing on that conversation they just had.
Yeah, 100%. That is not true. Especially for me, this is my fourth school year. So for me, I remember meeting a lot of you as freshmen. I can't see exactly who's on the call, but I've met a lot of students as freshmen, and I'm now seeing them every year. So that is not true. That we do remember, and maybe it takes us a second to remember a name. For me, I'm not the best with names, so it takes me a second, but I remember a face, and I'm like, oh, we talked about this, right? So first of all, we do remember, but if it's a first interaction and you're trying to make a connection, really just genuine interest and knowing a little bit about our company already. You don't need to know exactly like, oh, we just rolled out this new brand and we just announced this new initiative. But if you have an idea that we have hotel brands, so that's great. That's a good place to start, right? And then from there, we can build a conversation. For us, we're also looking for those that are friendly and people, because no matter what function we're in hospitality. So the people that can make a connection or at least keep up a conversation, that's one of the first things, which doesn't give you tangible advice necessarily, but is still a good way to start. Yeah.
I think it's good too if it's the second time you're interacting with a recruiter to kind of tee them up to remember who you are because we do meet so many students. So you could be like, "Hi, Catherine. I met you last year at Business Horizons, and we talked about this." And that's so helpful as a recruiter because a lot of times, like I remember your face and I remember your name from us emailing back and forth, but putting two and two together is really helpful. So having meaningful conversations and then reminding the recruiter or the professional you're talking to about what you've talked about before is really helpful because it is a lot of people to remember, but we do remember you. So um, I
Yeah.
encourage you to try and add
I
that into
think
your little elevator pitch when you chat with people.
Yeah, and building on that too, if you don't remember if you actually talked to me at the table last year, but you know you came to our table, right? And same for any company, going up and saying, I came to this booth last year and I had a really lovely conversation and we talked about this. That's okay too. Like, don't feel like you have to have this pressure to remember our names. It's always nice if you did, but if you didn't, that's okay. You still have some background we can build on. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. I guess another common one I hear, and Jordan, I'll get your thoughts, kind of ties in with all this. I often hear there's no way to get a meaningful conversation in just a few minutes with a recruiter at a career fair. What are some tips you might have for that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is, well, what is meaningful to you? What does that mean to you? And you're gonna get out of it as much as you put in, right? So if you're going up to a recruiter and you have well thought out questions, and maybe you've done some research on their company or their positions, and you can kind of ask those questions, you're gonna have a more meaningful conversation, and you're gonna feel like you came out of it with a lot more. But if you go in and just say, "Hi, this is who I am. This is what I'm studying. Can you tell me about your company?" You know, you can easily Google their company. So that might not be the best conversation. So going in and just knowing, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to learn? What do I want to get from this? That is how you're going to get more meaningful or whatever is meaningful to you.
Awesome. Love that. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit, Catherine. Another one I hear a lot. I am planning on just going and just seeing who's there and kind of getting a feel for it the day of. What would you say to that thought?
I think it's very overwhelming as a student going to, especially if this is your first time going to a career fair like Business Horizons. There's so many companies, so many people, and it's tough sometimes to know where to start. And you may not want to, you have so little time to connect with all of these companies. So I think it's a really good thing to game plan and do your research ahead of time. So take a look at, I'm pretty sure all of the companies that are attending next week are posted online. Take a look and see which companies may have your interest the most, and then do some research on some things about that company that, like Jordan was saying, maybe is most meaningful to you, and you can go up to the game plan going to those booths first, and then if you have extra time you can go to the other companies. I mean, there's going to be so many firms and companies there. I don't expect you to do that for every single one, but I think it is a really good idea to make a plan of what interests you most, and maybe a firm that you end up talking to that you didn't plan on going to in the end becomes one of your top firms. So it is good also to kind of go around after you've hit those top ones for you. But I do think researching about the companies so that you are able to have those meaningful conversations and get some of the questions that you have answered is key. And then also planning which ones are your top that you want to go to, because you end up spending a lot more time, I feel like, at each booth when you are having meaningful conversations. So you do need to plan out, make an action plan of where you're going to go.
Yeah, 100%. I also want to ask, I'll go to Ronnie. What are some questions you like to get? Like you probably get a lot of the same questions. So what do you like as like an opening question at the career fair?
Yeah, so I kind of said it already, mostly because I like to hear it. Um, and this answers the question, but also I'm going to go a little off the question, but it's answering the question. So when somebody's introducing themselves to me, something that I don't necessarily like to have or that I need right off the bat, and this is maybe different for KPMG. So Catherine, tell me if it's different. But for me, sometimes I've had students come up and just tell me every job experience they've had. Like I did this internship and that internship and all of that. And obviously this is students who are further along in their education. For me, I'm more interested in knowing what is it that you're interested in doing now. And then in the conversation, usually your past experiences end up coming up because it's awesome to see the journey, but in that time it is limited, right? You have other booths you want to see. We have other students in line for us. So my favorite thing is you do your quick intro, your year, your major, what you're studying, and then what you're interested in and why you stop by our booth. Like I came to you because I'm interested to learn how you do that at your company, or if you have, more details, I love that. Like I recently heard you just acquired a new brand, and so I wanted to learn more about that, or just working something in that still tells me something about you, but helps me know that you targeted us for a reason. Like you're here intentionally to learn something, so I can provide to you what you're looking for. Um, that hopefully made sense, but it kind of goes along with what we said before, like being intentional in what you're looking for.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
completely agree with everything you said, because I don't need you to regurgitate your resume to me. It's a lot of information and there's only a little bit of time that I have for each student. So coming up with me to me and saying why you can mention like, oh, I did a tax internship last year and I really would like to do audit because I want to see what that's like, or have some intention behind telling me about your past experiences and about why you've come to our booth. Sometimes I just have students say like, tell me about your company, and they have no idea what we are, and that's okay. But I think it goes a lot further with all the different professionals that you talk to if you are more intentional with your questions.
And I think for if you go to a company, so like KPMG, we mostly know what you do, and maybe I don't know everything, but a company that like us, we have accounting, like accounting and finance, we have marketing, we have brand, we have operations, we have so many different facets. So when I get that question of tell me about your company, I say my response automatically is, what are you interested in doing, so that I can tell you about what our company is doing in that space. So we get to that, but for especially the bigger the company, and with you and KPMG, if somebody came up to you and said, "I want to do accounting," you'd be like, "Okay, tell me more," right? So we help you get there too if it slips your mind or it's super crazy.
Yeah, that's great. And that goes back to what Jordan was saying. You're going to get out of the conversation what you put in. If you go in and say to Catherine, I want to do accounting versus, this program that I looked up or something, you'll get more out of it. They'll be able to talk to it more. Okay, so one thing that I know I get a lot, and Jordan, probably you as well. I think and based on some names, I think we have a lot of freshmen on the call. How does that conversation literally go step by step? So we know that you're going to give your resume, but a question I get a lot is like, when do I hand the resume? When do I do the handshake? I'm gonna go to Ronnie. Can you just like walk us through just like basic building steps, how a student should approach you at a booth?
Yeah, definitely. So, first thing, coming up, saying hello with a smile and giving eye contact. I know there's a lot of steps, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and that, but just that first connection, right? We're all people, and I want to greet you. I want to say hello, and then saying your name, your major, your year, and what you're interested in. Um, and you could phrase it as a question of, I have a resume. Would you like a copy to review, right? And so a company may say, oh, I'll look at it, but we don't keep them. I'll give it back to you. Or maybe a company says, oh, we don't take those, whatever. That's okay, right? You ask the question, give them the option. Most companies, I think, will take it at least to look at it and read along as they talk to you. So then you give your resume, and then again, just reiterating what you're interested in, and then asking a good question if you don't have a question is how does that look at your company? Is that available at your company? And then going in with that. Yeah, I will
Yeah.
emphasize making sure to say your year is really important. Knowing if I need to talk about internships with you or if you're looking for full time, that is a big thing. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to reiterate too that your year is when you're graduating. So we get a lot of like, I'm a sophomore, but I'm an academic junior. It's a little confusing on the hiring side. Essentially, to correct me if I'm wrong, they need to know when you're available for what kind of program. So when are you graduating and are you seeking an internship or full time? That's super important to move forward.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, appreciate that. Let's see, another one. I'm gonna go to Jordan. Another one we hear a lot. No one is looking for what I want to do. What do I do with that?
Well, the question would be, what do you want to do? And what does that look like? Because when you're doing research on these companies, right, there's different types of positions. And one thing that may be called, or one job title at one company may be titled slightly different at another one. Or they could be the same job title, but slightly different job descriptions. So it's really doing your research and understanding what are the jobs, what are you looking for? And my next tip there would be try to be open-minded. Don't go in with one specific job because there's so many opportunities out there and so many things that you can learn and build on. And there's steps to get to your end goal. So definitely be open-minded. That would be my biggest tip there. And I don't know if Ronnie or Catherine has something different.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like I think about my current job. I'm in HR, human resources and recruitment, but I do marketing, I do sales, I do finance, I have a budget to manage. So, just and I do logistics and honestly supply chain, trying to get all my items to campus and managing our inventory. Like I'm doing a little bit of everything in my current job. So, even though I have certain things, obviously, I like to do more than others in life, I believe that there's no job where you love every single part of it at every moment of every day. There is going to be things that sometimes you have to do and you don't like, and but you like the overall job, you like the mission, and you like what you're working towards. So, definitely seconding being open, but also that job titles are so different in every company. It's very confusing. Yeah.
Definitely agree with everything both of y'all said. I think having an open mindset is so important because even now, like I went to school for accounting and now I'm doing HR related tasks related with accounting. And so you never know where your career is going to take you. So just having that open mindset, I think in general is really awesome.
And like the worst thing that happens if you get an experience and you hate it, you learn what you don't like. And that's honestly just as valuable as learning what you do like. And the good thing about if for those of you looking for internships, it's 3 months, which when you're in it seems like a very long time. But I look back at when I was an intern and it was like a flip of a coin. It felt so quick. So that's really the best place to learn if something is for you or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I mean, use Business Horizons as an exploration tool if you're someone who thinks, okay, I'm not sure that these are aligning with my goals. There are so few opportunities me rephrase. There are no other opportunities this entire year where you're going to have this many companies, this many people wanting to talk to you about your career options. So even if you walk away and you're like, you know what, I did my due diligence and these opportunities are not for me, this is truly so important when you're someone who's in the exploring phase and seeing what's out there. Unless there's an offer signed, it cannot hurt to go talk to all these other companies. So yeah. Catherine, something that you kind of touched on earlier, and another thing we hear, I only need to talk to the big name companies that I've heard of because those are the ones that where everyone goes. What do we think about that?
I definitely think that you need to explore all companies. Definitely a huge myth. Although KPMG is a big multinational company, I did not know who they were before I went to my first career fair, and I just kind of stumbled upon them and got talking with the recruiter there and realized, oh, like maybe I do think a career in accounting would be good for me, and I ended up switching my major. So I think it is important to explore all the different opportunities, even if it is a company that you've never heard of, because it might be a diamond in the rough for you. So definitely don't only limit yourself to a couple of companies that you are familiar with, because there's so many out there. There's no way you can know every single one that is going to be attending. So it's good to be open.
Yeah. I'll also add to that. Working for a bigger company and working for a smaller company are very different experiences and take different skills, even for the same type of job. So, my advice to college students is try to get an internship at a small company and get an internship at a big company, two different summer, like across 2 summers, because you can see where what works for you better, where do you thrive, how does work get done. Sometimes you can really have big learnings that you can take with you into the other. And like for me, I actually didn't do that. I only worked for Marriott. It was huge. And then when I post graduation, I had a small opportunity during the pandemic to go work for a smaller company. And they were a great company. I loved working for them, but I realized that my skills were a little bit more suited towards a bigger company. I was thriving more. I was more successful in that. So I'm glad, I wish I'd had that experience in college, but I'm glad I did get to have that experience. So I didn't really question if I was in the right spot. And like worst case, and like obviously every company is awesome, but if you pick a company where you don't know about it or maybe you don't even think you want to go there, it's a good place to start to practice your elevator pitch. And then as you're more comfortable, come to, one of those companies that's on your list to go to. Because honestly, you may even find like, oh, this was not one that I really thought I'd like. And then you might find the perfect opportunity for you there. Um, yeah. I have one other note on it. I'm sorry. I have a lot of thoughts. The other thing is about location. So, if location is important to you, sometimes the bigger companies are in bigger cities and bigger areas. Not always, but if there's a certain city where you really want to go there, that's where home is or whatever, sometimes it is the smaller companies that may have those options for you too. So, that goes with that research piece of just knowing what you're looking for and what's offering that. Okay, that's my thoughts.
That's perfect. Yeah, please, all the advice. That's amazing. You actually touched on something, locations, and I know this is a question we might see. We have a lot of international students in Pamplin, and I am curious if you have tips, Ronnie, because I know you've talked to a couple of our international student populations before. Any tips for navigating the career fair as an international student?
Yeah. You can go. Perfect. So yes, so I think a big thing is being upfront with that, because it is a factor, right? And so letting us know where exactly do you have authorization, what would you need to work for the opportunity you're looking for, or what are you interested in, and how can we make that happen? And companies will be honest with you. I'm honest with you about, what we're looking for, if it's possible or not. Sometimes the answer is that it's not possible. And it's not that we don't want to have that opportunity for those international students. It's just kind of how our positions are organized and laid out. So being upfront and some of that, doing that research in advance if you can to see if, so you use your time. But I don't know, Catherine, do you have any other?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's really great to add into your elevator pitch that that's something that you're looking for, either that it's sponsorship or you're going to have OTP or all of those things involved. So I think that's great because I know, at least in our company, certain groups will sponsor students. And so if you're doing research and you really love this one group, but um, they actually don't accept international students and sponsoring students, that's something that I can let you know. So being upfront so that you don't waste your time, and we have a limited number of times that you're allowed to apply on our website. So you don't want to waste an application on something that you actually don't qualify for. So I think it is good to be upfront so that we as the recruiter can let you know, like, hey, like these are actually the roles that I think would align with your interests and also that you would qualify for as an international student seeking sponsorship. So
I think,
just add that in to your pitch at the
yeah.
beginning.
And the other thing is, companies that are international also could be a good place to look because even if we don't have that opportunity for if you need sponsorship and we don't have the opportunity in the US for you, but we may in the country where you have that ongoing authorization. So we can share more about what that looks like or connect you to somebody who can tell you what's going on there. I know that's not always what everybody wants to hear or the ideal, but if you are looking for a position and you're open to that, international companies may have those options for you. So,
Awesome. All right. Jordan, this question's coming to you. The student says, I'm too nervous. I'm better suited for online applications only. Tell us your thoughts there.
Yeah, as a career advisor, sometimes I love to give tough love. So yes, everyone's probably going to be nervous. There are more people nervous there than what you think. Like you are not the only one. Even the recruiters are probably nervous, but just remembering that, they're just another person. They put on pants just like you do and your socks and shoes. So it's really just going in and having a conversation. So I'm going to push you to get out of your comfort zone. Yes, applying online is great, definitely do it, but getting in front of the recruiter is just a different type of experience, and it's a good way to learn different things and explore. So I would push you out of your comfort zone and just say, maybe start with a small goal. Like, I'm going to go talk to two companies and just see how it goes. And then kind of build on that, and maybe your nerves will ease from there. Something else to think about is us in career services are going to be there to support the students. So if you need to come shake out the nerves or practice your elevator pitch or see who you should go talk to, come talk to us. But I think that you should at least give it a try to grow from it, learn something new, and really it's just going to benefit you and set you up for success.
Awesome. And I would go back to Ronnie's step-by-step guide, right? You know exactly what you need to say. You're going to have a great question and it will flow from there. I would say most recruiters are talkative people, right, guys? You guys will take it if they ask you a question. So,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and try to take that pressure off. Like if you forget to say one thing or maybe you're, whatever it is, like we can also have a conversation. It's not one-sided, so it'll happen. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I think this kind of is similar to some of our previous questions, but a student asked, how is it possible to stand out in that crowd? So I would just love some other tips that you might have. I'll start with you, Ronnie.
Mhm.
How can you stand out when we're all in the same programs? We've all got similar resume templates. Like what works for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can imagine how it's like, oh my gosh, they talk to so many people and we don't know them all, right? I think for me, the ones that I do tend to remember are the ones that are friendly, as I said, can keep up a conversation, but also have, and I think I said this before, but some sort of like reason for coming to us, like whether they just knew like, oh, I've heard about Marriott, I wanted to learn more and, see if what I've done would align in your company or if there's an opportunity in your company. Or if it's something more specific, like you want to ask about a specific role or you talk to somebody who worked at Marriott, awesome. Just to see that intention is really nice. For me, like our company is so large that for those that haven't heard of us, like if you haven't heard of us or you kind of like I've had people say that Marriott is in a completely different industry than it is. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you're getting us confused and that's okay. But for us, like having some sort of idea of our brand is somewhat important. So just even if you look at a list and see who's coming, that's something for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think having some sort of connection, whether that be the research that you've done or that you've spoken with somebody from the company before, or even like my friend interned with KPMG last summer and they said they had a great time on their internship. And then going in, I feel like it shows that you're confident and you've done the work on the back end. So I think just trying, I know it's nerve wracking and it's a stressful day, but trying to introduce yourself with confidence. You know yourself best. So let me know your interests. And that makes my job easier. So just try and be confident and believe in yourself when you're talking to all these companies.
And I guess like even because at Business Horizons we have like a sign that says the majors we're looking for, right? Or something like that. So even if it's like I see that you marked that you're looking for marketing, like I'm interested in marketing and I believe I've heard of your brand, right? That's not like maybe you haven't, that's okay, but at least it's something where okay, like you saw something that sparked you to come over. Yeah.
I love that. And I think too the follow-up, that you're gonna make the most out of that by getting their name, connecting on LinkedIn. I feel like I've said this already, but we can't give out contact information afterwards. A lot of times students ask for that. Make sure you're getting a name, write it down, bring a notepad, so you can connect on LinkedIn afterwards. All right, another question in the chat. So with the rise of AI and the use of ATS systems, applicant tracking systems, how would a student avoid getting caught up in that ATS stage and actually getting through to the next round?
I know at KPMG, all of our applications are reviewed by a hiring manager, but I know at some other companies, if it's like detecting a ton of AI usage or commonalities, it's kind of like mixed. So I think it's really important when you're using AI for really anything, but especially creating your resume to make sure you put the human back into it. So making sure that what is actually being said on your resumes is not just the application regurgitated that you're applying to. It's actually things that you've done and things, skills that you have acquired. So I think you can't just expect AI to do everything for you. Making sure to double check everything. And you can also follow up with the recruiter. I have students follow up all the time, like, hey, I applied a couple weeks ago. Do you have a status update on my application? Of course, don't apply and then immediately send me an email, but give it an appropriate amount of time. And I think that's a good way, and a really good reason why you should be connecting with these recruiters on campus. It's a lot easier for me and to be quicker to respond to a student that I know I've met before and I have some background on the applications that they're applying to. So making those connections can really help you in the long run to not get stuck in that jail through the
I'll
application process.
I'll also add, so at Marriott, we also have hiring managers and recruiters screening resumes, so it isn't a system doing it. But for companies that are using that, well, I love that, like of, don't just put it in Chat GPT and then just use that, like double check, make it your own kind of thing. But that being said, in the job description, there are things that are listed as required qualifications, and usually those systems that are screening resumes are looking to see if the required qualifications are in your resume. So it is okay to have different resumes for each job application. I know, like, that was something I didn't really realize in all of my time in school. Don't lie, as Catherine said, like, it should be things you actually did. But, like, if you're applying for a position with Marriott and you're a part-time server at a restaurant, that's something you want to have on your resume, right? Because we are a hospitality company. But maybe if you are going to, well, I don't know what everybody's looking for, but like, let's say you're going to like a coding tech job. I don't like maybe that's something you have on your resume, but it's a little smaller or it's a one line thing, right? So that you're really making sure to highlight what the job is looking for, and making your resume tailored to that kind of thing. that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to highlight your skills. So don't dance around them. Explicitly tell me, not even just in your skills section, but like where and how you've used that and demonstrated that is super, super important. Okay, another question in the chat asking about giving out contact information. Can I give a business card? Just to clarify my earlier comment, recruiters can absolutely share their contact information with you as students. You can share your contact information with them. All I meant by that was a lot of times we get emails after a career fair from students who are asking me to give the name of the blonde at this, specific booth. We might not have that, and a lot of times we can't share personal information for recruiters. They're going to do that themselves. So that's why it's so important to go meet them, because then they can share their information, and now you're connected with them personally. So yes, absolutely, you can share your contact information and get theirs from them. All right, Jordan, I'm gonna do some like housekeeping stuff. This one is, I'm not gonna bring anything. That way I'm like ready to go. My hands are free for handshakes. What should a student be bringing? What should they not bring? Things like that.
Oh, good question. If you bring a book bag, you cannot take that into Business Horizons. There's limited space in there, so we don't need to be bumping cars and everything in the little aisleway. So there's a room you can check your book bag in if you need to. Definitely bring like your little pad folio or your folder. Have your copies of your resumes for the recruiters that are taking those. Just like it was said earlier, make sure your resume is ready to go on your phone if you need to drop that as well. Have a pen, have paper, maybe make some notes as you go as who you're talking to get their contact information. Have your notes there for if you made your game plan before going in, when you're waiting in line, refresh your memory, take a look at your phone, see who are they? What did I want to ask again? So it's okay to have these things. You're still going to be able to do a nice handshake, but you don't want to go in empty-handed. You want to feel you're prepared and going in with confidence there. Anything that anyone feels like I missed?
I think you covered what to bring, so thank you for that. Just quick other housekeeping things that came to mind. It's a 2-day event, as I'm sure all of you have seen. There are different companies on both days. That's a question we get a lot. So please feel free, please come to both days. Even if you can't come for the whole time, there will be lines that the companies, it's just especially our larger companies. So you'll need to plan time for that. It can take longer to get through your game plan than maybe you had anticipated. So as much time as you can dedicate to it, we encourage you to come for both days.
Yeah, when you're looking to see which companies are going to be there, pay attention to what day they are so that you can make the appropriate game plan and you're not going in looking around and they're not even there. So just make sure you're paying attention to those dates.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are coming to the end of our questions. I always like to do quick company plugs. So, what day are you going to be at? Where can we find you? That kind of thing. If there are any last questions while Ronnie and Catherine are sharing, please drop those in the chat and we will answer. But I'm going to start with you, Ronnie.
Yeah, so Marriott International will be there. We'll only be there on day one, but would love to see you all. We are going to be recruiting for a variety of things, but the biggest one we'll be highlighting is the HQ Fellowship Program, which is our corporate internship program. So for those that are currently freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, our applications are actually open now, but they'll be open when we're on campus for our 10-week paid internship at our corporate office. We have every business function, but actually a lot of them, oh yes, thanks, Hannah. I'm also at the cyber networking night, but the majority of our HQ fellowship applications, a lot of them are in information technology, computer science, data analysis. So those BIT majors, those cyber majors, but also management, marketing, HR, HTM, anybody who's interested can apply. And there's also an application if you're in your first year of your MBA that you could apply for next summer. And if you're pursuing a graduate degree that's more than 1 year long. So anybody who's not graduating, we have a spot for you. We also have opportunities in our hotels. So we have our hotel internship program and our voyage program, which is our management development program post-grad, as well as anything we do at Marriott, I'm happy to talk about. I will be at the Cyber and IT networking night as well, which is on Tuesday. So looking forward to seeing some of you hopefully Tuesday and on Wednesday. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. And before we jump over, Catherine, we did have another question.
Okay.
So, Jordan, I'll start with you for this one. How do we answer the question, Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years?
Ooh. Um, so I guess like going into the career fair, like how are you supposed to kind of assume that? Or like, I guess I'm not understanding how am I supposed to answer that question?
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, we know that's a very common interview question.
Yeah.
I don't know that I hear of it being asked too much. Ronnie, Catherine, do you guys ask that in interviews?
I would say I avoid that because I personally don't know where I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
so I guess what comes to mind when I hear that is I wouldn't focus on that too much because we've kind of talked about it earlier. You don't know where you're going to end up, and there's different journeys to different positions. So it's really about your experiences. So yes, have a goal if you have a goal, but try to just gain as many experiences as you can because that's what's going to get you to your positions. I know that other journeys were kind of shared earlier. Like my degree's in sport management. I got a minor in business. I thought I was going to do accounting. I actually wanted to do occupational therapy. I went into a car dealership. I did BDC managing there. And then I went into recruiting. And here I am as a career advisor. Like I thought I was going to be an occupational therapist, right? So really, yes, have goals, but build on your experiences and you're going to find out what you like and what you don't like. But if that is more of a question that you want to talk about with your career advisors, if you're preparing for an interview, we can definitely talk about that. But to go into the career fair, I would not focus on that. I would just go in open-minded, see how it goes, explore, and just have different conversations. That would be my
Yeah.
input there.
Yeah, that's great. And I think for the companies like, Ronnie and Catherine shared, they don't really ask that question, but some companies do. It's a very traditional question, I would say. And so for companies asking this question, I would typically say that you want to share goals that make sense for that company that you're interviewing in. So you don't need to say like, I want to work at this company and I want to be the CEO, right? But your goal could be, I want to continue my career and gain more experience in cybersecurity. And I'm hoping that I can be in a full-time role that allows me to do that. You can kind of keep it general while still maintaining that this is what I'm interested in, especially if it's an interview question. They're trying to gauge interest for the most part with this question. Or do you want to stay with us? Do you want to grow your career with us? That's what they're looking for typically.
Absolutely.
Ronnie, Catherine, any other thoughts on that
I,
question?
yeah, I agree with that. Like saying what you're interested in now and that you're looking to learn and to grow, and that may change in the future, may change in the future or lead to new opportunities is totally fine. Like you don't need to have the 5 year, 10 year, 15 year plan.
Who does? No one has that.
And if you do, that's awesome. Like, great. I love it. Yeah, let them know. Can answer that
Absolutely.
easily.
All right. That is the only question we got so far. So, Catherine, would you share a little bit about KPMG?
Yes, so we will be at Meet the Firms and Business Horizons on the first day, Wednesday, and we'll be hosting a social event following. So if you want to get an invite to that, stop by our booth and you can learn more about that. And right now, we are actively recruiting for our remaining summer 2026 audit and tax internships. So the way that our internship program works at KPMG is you intern the summer before you're done with all of your schooling. So if you're going to grad school, that also includes grad school. And we'll also be recruiting for our advisory internships for summer 2026. We haven't posted those at all yet. So those will be posted the day after Business Horizons for people to apply to. And we recruit so far in advance that we're actually looking for our audit and tax summer 2027 interns as well. So we have opportunities for so many students, of course, a lot accounting, but really any Pamplin major, business related major, we do have a place for you at our firm. So all of those applications you can find on our website, which is kpmguscareers.com. And I'm excited to hopefully meet a lot of you guys in person next week.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. That looks like all of our questions. So I am dropping our Business Horizons link in the chat if there are other questions that you guys think of. No, I just sent it to Ronnie. Let's send it to everyone. There we go.
Wait, Hannah, I have one question, if you don't mind. I want to ask Ronnie and Catherine
Yeah.
just to get your perspective because I have this conversation a lot with our students. You both mentioned like a lot of your applications are open already. Do you recommend students going ahead and applying before they go into Business Horizons? And what kind of conversations do you have with that? Like if they do or if they don't?
I recommend, at least for some of the roles that we have available right now, if you know you for sure want to go into audit or tax, or if you've done your own research or we've connected in the past, I think it's important to apply as soon as possible because we have rolling applications. So once the hiring manager feels that there are enough candidates who have applied to a specific position in a specific office location, they'll pull that down. So definitely be urgent about applying. But with that being said, I do think that Business Horizons is a great place to ask those questions if you're between a couple of opportunities and you aren't sure maybe what's the best fit for you based off of your interests and the requirements on the actual application. So I think having your resume ready to go to apply is probably the most important thing if you don't know specifically right now what you want to apply to. So then, right after you're done with Business Horizons, you can go and put your application in as soon as possible.
Is
At
it
least
okay
that's
for students to apply to multiple positions with your companies, or do you like think that maybe just two or three, or do you have a max amount?
yeah, for us, we you can have two active applications at once, and a lot of times students will ask, um, do you have to apply to a specific location? So our applications, yes, like you're applying to a role in a specific office location, and so I often get the question, should I apply to two different cities or one city, or should I apply to two different, completely different roles in one city? I think it's okay to have two different cities, but maybe if you're applying to the same role, or it's okay if you're applying to the same city but two different roles. I think showing that you've made a decision on one end is good, but maybe you're still trying to learn more. That's my personal opinion and how KPMG is, but I'll let Ronnie talk about.
Yeah. Well, back to applying. If it's between getting your resume ready and applying to jobs, like get your resume ready, as Catherine was saying, because we know we're coming, right? So like we're going to talk to you in just a few days. But if you are ready to apply, great. It can also be good just to look at the application. So if you get questions, then you can come to us, before applying and say like, hey, I looked at the application, I have these questions. So you can submit an application with me. That's really cool. I know I'm coming here, so when I'm looking at resumes, I'm like, oh, that's Virginia Tech. I hope to see them in a few days. So totally fine. But in terms of with like multiple applications, for us, that is totally fine. Once you get a job offer, our systems remove you from every other application that you're currently active in. So it's good up until you get to that offer phase, and that's when you should really have an idea of what you're looking to do. But that being said, apply to multiple. Just please make sure that you're meeting the qualifications listed. So if you are only like you're not a senior, you shouldn't apply to our voyage program because you're not eligible, and that I mean nothing bad happens. Like we don't take that against you, but I'm going to go through and remove you from the application because you're not qualified. So apply to as many things as you want. Just make sure, first of all, you're qualified for them. You meet those minimum qualifications, and then, know what you want by the time you're interviewing and at the offer phase. Yeah.
All right, great question, Jordan. We have a couple more, so I'm gonna try to rapid fire here. Someone is asking for application links. Can you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Handshake is the best place to start. You guys have everything linked there.
We
Okay.
are going to.
Okay. Awesome.
I can put our like university site in the chat for ours, I think. Okay, perfect.
I can do that as well.
Okay, and then the second question, thank you, Catherine. Second question is it true that a resume should be only one page? I'm gonna let Catherine answer this one.
Yes, definitely one page. I think like if you 15 years down the road need to show all of your experiences, yes, that's great. But for now, one page it should encompass everything fully. I think it is good. I know you can find ways to cut back some of your things. So yesterday I was doing resume reviews and a lot of students had things spilling onto a second page, like all of their skills that they were listed. But when I was reading some of their prior experiences within clubs or previous roles, it was implied some of the skills that they had listed based off of the things that they had done in those roles. So I think it's okay maybe to knock some of that information off, because I can tell that you are all of the great things that are listed in your skills based off of things you've done in your roles. So definitely keep it concise. One page. I think the statistic is like the average recruiter takes a look at your resume for 7 seconds before deciding if they want to continue to read or move forward. So you want everything to be on one page, very nicely done. Use one of the pamphlet templates because those are easy for the eyes to skim over, and then you can deep dive in more once you take a look over the resume at first glance.
Yeah. Usually, as Catherine was saying, like the most important stuff is on your first page, right? So, yeah, keeping it concise.
Yeah, absolutely. I promise you guys, it is possible to get on one page. It hurts a little bit when you have to cut something that's older, but I promise you it's possible. If you're struggling, come talk to us. That's a really fun project for us to cut down on resumes, so we're happy to help you with that. Yeah. All right, we got another question. Opinion on college GPA on the resume. I would say positive. We want rep GPAs, right? But Ronnie, Catherine, thoughts there?
That probably differs for us. So for us, we don't have a GPA requirement, so it's not necessarily required. For our senior for seniors, you do need to successfully graduate. We do check that you passed all your classes and you have a degree. But yeah, I'm sure we differ though.
Yeah,
Catherine.
we do have a GPA requirement for most of our roles of a 3.0 or above. It is a question like when you submit your application, your GPA anyway. So I think it's good to have on your resume, especially if you have a stellar GPA. But I see it both ways. You can have it on there or you don't have to.
I think you
Yeah,
maybe should have it on since some companies may look for it and
Yeah.
others won't,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, and Ronnie mentioned earlier you can have different resumes, right? So if you know one company is not as concerned with GPA, there's no cutoff or anything, and you don't think that's the highlight of your academic career, then you could have leave it off for that particular application. All right, we're coming up on 5 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys so much, and thanks to our students for these wonderful questions. Really, really appreciate all the advice that our panelists gave today. I don't know if you guys saw, but Ronnie offered her LinkedIn. That might be a good idea to connect with folks that you heard from here today. And yeah, we're excited to have you all at Business Horizons next week. Please don't hesitate to reach out to our email. Let me share Pampling for Services email. If you think of anything, you can shoot us an email here. We are getting a high volume of requests, but quick questions we can definitely answer as you guys continue to prepare. But thank you all so much, Ronnie, Catherine, Jordan. Really appreciate you and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks for
thank you,
having us.
everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.